In terms of the genesis of it, I grew up not that far from Grey Gardens, about an urban. Spent my summers out in Long Island, about 45 minutes from East Hampton, and always knew of the story. Knew that it was a documentary that was well regarded, and that they played, every annually in the Hamptons type of a thing. But I had never seen it, and it eventually came. It debuted in the mid '70s. And then was sort of like a black market traded around on videotape during like the 80s and stuff. And then eventually in 2002 they made a DVD of it, and I saw it a year later. So I think it had kind of a reemergence in around 2003. And that's when I saw it for the first time, and immediately I thought, wow, I had so many questions about basically how they got to it. I said, there's a movie just in that. And which should actually begins to address your second question. The first thing I set out to do was not recreate the documentary. I said, the documentary is perfect. There's no reason to recreate that. And so the original draft that I had written was a linear version of the story that went from the 1930s up to the 1970s, actually beyond the documentary. And in that version, the documentary period, which was 6 weeks long in true life, took about like a page or two of the 120-page draft. And it wasn't until later when we got into development with HBO and, backing up a second, I also was doing this whole project on spec originally, meaning that nobody was paying me to do it. It was like an entrepreneurial effort on my part. And I had option life rights from the Beale family, but not from the documentarians, because I basically didn't have the money to make that kind of it was tens of thousands of dollars to get even a short option. So, but later when we got into HBO, by the time we brought the project to HBO, we had obtained those rights, and we were working to cut down the scope of the movie because it included the JFK inauguration and like all this stuff that was just, the Maidstone, just stuff that was just too expensive to do. And one of the things we had to do was cut out decades, and in order to do that, we were like, well, let's use the documentary as a structure to go back and forth. So like many things, it evolved into what it became. It's a long answer, but it was also a 6-year project.
And a little bit about the production design. I know we're so grateful to have you here as well. Had to recreate that. We want to know everything about it. I guess we want to know if you used the same, did you have one house and then destroy it, or did you create 2 different sets, and did you have any of the actual stuff from the original house? What else, how did it work?
Well, I came in when the script was in perfect shape, actually. So I don't know about the 5 years of hardship for him, but Michael has lived with this project, and he had such tremendous passion for it. And unlike other directors, he actually has a background in art, so he had the original drafting and architectural plans of the house. And so when I got on, we had less than 7 weeks of prep. The very first thing that we bonded over was that we were going to talk HBO into building the facade. This was the big battle, because you can't call the movie Grey Gardens and make it, the house is the third character in the movie, without really doing it for real. And we talked about, we had a great discussion about how we were going to age it, and we broke it down really into 4 separate looks, which actually 4.5, and sometimes 5, and sometimes 6. It depended on what year. But we really strive for authenticity, and so we built the exterior, it was built in a field, and it's a direct duplicate of the building. Then we played a little bit with the interior, but nobody knows, and we don't tell our secrets. It played well for our stage, and it fit on, but
it's almost exactly how.
Yes.
In fact, we had a small screening out in East Hampton before the premiere, and then we had the reception at Grey Gardens, and it was sort of like the reverse Purple Rose of Cairo. And it was like watching the movie and then walking onto the set, which was the real house, because it's been restored. It's in East Hampton.